All right, well, good evening and welcome to the TST Roundtable webcast for June of 2012 already. I'm Pierre, the Vice President of TST. I'm gonna go around the table here and everybody's going to identify themselves.
I'm Rich. I'm the Secretary of TST.
My name is Eric Tidner. I'm Associate for TST.
John Baer. I'm Associate for TST.
I'm Craig. I don't know what I am anymore.
Craig is everything. He does all those behind-the-scenes things.
Am I on the screen?
All right. We are going to, this evening, talk about anything that you come up with, but we're going to start with Evap. We have Jensen from Global Leak Detection Systems. We're going to talk about tough Evap diagnostic problems, making money with aftermarket warranties, IPDs on Nissans, and more. And we have some things we've come up with as well. But if you come up with any subject, automotive related, whether it's tools, procedures, shop practices, cars that drive you crazy or can't fix or figure out, whatever, that's what it's all about. It's a round table for all of us to discuss, whatever comes to mind. I guess since we were going to do this first, but we're going to push it to the back of the time slot a little bit for some audio reasons. Technical difficulties. If anybody was on a few minutes ago, you saw that. And I guess I'll start going down the table because Rich had something about fuses and testing and stuff like that he wanted to talk about.
All right.
And we can just kind of go on whatever subjects come to mind.
All right.
So, Rich?
Okay, one of the things that I'm always doing electrical problems. That's my business. And one of the things that's out there are these fuses that are imported garbage fuses.
From what country?
Whatever. All right. The fuses that are bad out there. Not only do they have fuses that are rated at one rating. Let's say I've had fuses that are rated at 15 amps. All right, that are downstream of a 30 amp maxi fuse, and the 30 amp maxi fuse will blow before the 15 amp ATC or ATM fuse will blow. All right. I've also had just the opposite. I've had a 30 amp fuse, which was put in an ATM or ATC 30 amp fuse, and was put in a blower circuit, and the blower circuit was fine. It wasn't drawing enough power, but eventually that 30 amp fuse would just melt away. It wasn't blowing due to an over amperage problem. It would just melt away.
So, Rich, what you're saying is there was nothing wrong with the car. You got called to a shop because a fuse was blowing,
right,
and they thought they had a short or a high current condition.
Absolutely.
And in reality, what you found was a low quality fuse condition.
That's right.
So they kept replacing the fuse out of the same box of fuses?
They probably had already replaced it 2 or 3 times.
That's exactly what happened.
So, Rich, on that note, what would you recommend as a fuse to use? What name brand?
Name brand? Just go with a good brand of fuses, as long as it is a name brand.
What do you use?
Either you've got Little Fuse, you've got Bus, all right. You've got some of the manufacturers out there, suppliers out there that are using nothing but Bus or Little fuses. Those are the big ones out there.
Okay.
All right.
Part or equipment or whatever suppliers, not that we want to go through all the names.
Or even the stores like parts stores like Napa or any of these places.
Or Rogo or Worth or Windsor or those guys. They probably have quality stuff, right?
They have quality things. But these assortments that you buy for $3 with 250 fuses in, all right, these are
out of a discount store.
Well, you can tell just by looks of them half the time.
Yeah, but
you know what I call it? I call it the racist approach auto repair.
Racist approach.
You look at the back of the box, and you can most times tell the quality of the part by the country it's made in. If it's America, Germany, Japan,
right,
2/3 of the axis powers, got a good part right there.
2/3 of the
Now, if you have, maybe Canada, France, maybe South Korea, some movies South Korea, you have a second tier part, probably not too bad. And then we start going to China, Czechoslovakia, Thailand, then you got a real piece of garbage. So it doesn't always, you know, it's stereotypes, it's not always true, but I would say most of the time you're going to know the quality of part you put in the car by the country it's built in.
And look at it, but look at
I'll
it.
say this, if you have some of these parts and you're not sure where they're made, before you go totally crazy, put an ammeter on the circuit and see what it's really drawing. And if it's blowing a fuse and it's really only drawing a very small amount, suspect the fuse, at least just go to another source.
As Jerry would say, test, don't guess.
Test, don't guess, that's right.
And it's not that it's drawing a small amount, it's got to be drawing what the circuit calls for.
But sadly, in the real world, how much time do we have to second guess the part we put in the car, like I mean a fuse? You know, that's why it's really important to stock the right stuff so you don't run into that.
Absolutely.
Quality to the best of your ability.
Exactly.
There you go.
Not the cheapest.
My motto when I had my shop, which was only a BMW shop, was BMW quality or better, never less.
Is there any better than BMW?
There is.
There is.
Just checking, Pierre.
And in a lot of cases that meant I had to go back to the dealer, because they were the best quality.
Just to clarify, Rich, not to be specific, but did the fella, you know, get one of those cheap giant assortments? Is
That's
that
exactly what he had.
It was what he had. No,
Exactly what he had.
Okay.
Yep.
So, alrighty, well, and that, by the way, is a pet peeve of Rich's, because he deals with, we call him Richie Shorts. He's supposed to be dealing with short circuits and wiring problems, but he runs into stuff like this.
By the way, Rich, in an article I'm writing, I quote you 3 times, like the Rich Tass, I say, electrical engineer Richie Shorts Peterson. So there you go. I give you a few plugs.
On a fuse scenario, you should also look at the fuse, read the fuse, because it tells you a story. And people should
How it burned.
Yes. He
That's
said
right.
melted. You could tell if it melted or snapped.
If it's blown apart, snapped, you know you had a real high current draw. If it's just got wavy and deteriorated and had a little teeny crack, then it's a what you call a slow burn. It's
a melt away.
Yeah, a melt away.
A melt
It's
away.
just marginal enough where the fuse couldn't hold up.
The cheese just got a little...
The cheese.
And just oozed.
Being French, I understand cheese.
You understand.
Did you actually use a heat gun in it?
A heat gun?
Okay, I think enough of that. So,
Yeah.
Eric, you were going to talk about, I guess, a recent pet peeve of valve train issues in direct injected cars,
I've
right?
seen a lot of issues lately, and that's come to my attention with the actually I repaired because of direct injection. The oil would sit on top of the PCV valve system, would suck in oil fumes and rest on top of the valves when it was shut off, and coke the valves up to the point where this thing won't even start or idle when it's cold, because it absorbed all the fuel, all the actually open the valve, I'll keep the valve open, and it would get misfire codes. You would assume it's an ignition problem, it's not, it's actually the valve train. There is ways to test it, look for misfires, also without taking apart the intake, the check units. Mileage has been a big indication, because usually about 50,000 miles or less when you have that problem. A lot of Audis.
Yeah.
I just did a
Most
Mini
likely.
today that I had to do multiple system cleanings on it and multiple different solvents just to test and retest what would happen after, before and after testing. So without via pulling the intake off and using a kit to, which is the kit's involved is this valve, is zip ties together and putting a solvent on and cleaning it with zip ties. I don't know how that works, but they have a system out there like that. It's like shorter than using nutshells is to burn them off.
Well,
break apart.
walnut shells, my understanding is that you're talking about those deposits that are gummy, right?
Yeah.
And the gummy deposits, the problem is that most of all the ones I'm aware of the kind of misting induction system, cleaner systems, seem to get absorbed by that stuff or bounce off of it or whatever. They just don't clean it. And that's why physical removal seems to be the answer. I think BG has some kind of a kit that's approved by Volkswagen. They still end up taking the intake manifold off, which,
Yes.
and they put some kind of a plate on and soak it with this solvent. They do 2 cylinders at a time, so the cylinders that have the intake valve closed gets soaked in this garbage and then it gets suctioned out.
That's so involved.
It is so involved. And so you're talking about doing it without taking the intake.
Without taking it off. You can do multiple cleanings, it does work. I proved it multiple times. You just gotta be patient with it. You gotta tell your customer it's not just gonna be one cleaning, you're gonna have multiple.
How long does it take?
Each, depending on how big the can you're using, depending on what product you're using, but usually about a half hour, 45 minutes per can.
So a half hour, 45 minutes as opposed to
Per can, you say?
3, 4, whatever, 5 hours
You walk
to remove
away
a
from the
manifold.
car, you're not sitting there.
Yeah, you can initiate a process and,
Right.
and let it clean itself well.
Yeah.
So you're fogging the intake several times, like with this like regular run right BG whatever.
Yeah, BG, and I use Seafoam as well.
What's
Okay.
Seafoam has been around for a while.
So just so you know, out on the web, actually we should, are there any questions on this?
any
No?
questions now?
No, just comments.
What kind of comments?
Sometimes the fuse will melt because of a loose fuse socket and.
Oh, back to the
Yeah,
fuse
back-
thing.
That's okay.
That's right, that's true. Sometimes the
Yes.
fuse will melt and actually
That's due to high resistance.
the resistance in that connection, and it can melt the fuse box.
Oh, sure.
It can do serious damage
Absolutely.
to the plastic holder that holds those terminals.
You're correct.
That's right.
Any-
Especially
Yeah.
in BMW.
Anything else on that?
No.
All right. Very good, very good. That's a good, very good point.
That is a good point, yeah. Back to the intake thing. It seems that manufacturers are painfully aware of this as they're all going to direct injection. And when I was at VW, they told me that they were going to start to, this is one of the tech guys, the reps, they're going to try to start to have some type of oil vapor separation system in the PCV system
Yes.
to stop all that junk from reaching the valves.
And or use a solvent in the oil to keep it clean.
And oil chemistry as well. So this brings up what I was getting to with the oil is you have to be sure you're using the latest spec, the correct spec for whatever vehicle that is you're working on. It's again, don't just have some salesman say, this does everything, or what are the other good lies? I sell a lot of this, so it must be good.
You have to look at the back of the bottle. It's a Volkswagen. You're looking at a 50200 or 50500 specification. If it's a Mercedes, a 229.51 specification. If it's BMW, at least
the
long life 4s you can get a lot of these days.
Right.
GMs, you should be looking at Dexos.
Yep.
Ford and Chrysler, the new Chryslers, I forget what it is. It's like 6935. It's a synthetic oil. All the Chryslers take it. You just can't get by the cheap stuff with the brand new cars.
But you are also having a problem because these are brand new vehicles with direct injection. They are going back to the dealer and using the proper oil. So you need to think above and beyond that. You need to put a cleaner in the oil now to keep the oil.
So like a BG oil additive?
Yes, they have an oil additive that actually keeps the motor internally clean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's becoming more and more important.
Right.
All right. So, Bear had.
Well, I just wanted to, I will go to mine. Is there something you can do for your customers with that type of car?
Yeah, you need.
No. Obviously, it didn't happen overnight.
But you aggressively sell fuel system cleans early,
right,
and then you add the oil treatment every oil change soon.
Now, is
They're
that
saying 15,000 miles now.
For the fuel system cleaning?
Intake system.
induction type?
I already do that to my car. It's a regular Hyundai, 2.0 liter.
That's your car, not every customer.
Oh, of course, you can't sell it to every
That's the
customer.
point right there. That is the point right
The
there.
point is, you can try.
The direct injection will force them, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
It's
If
interesting
you-
that you found out that it works so, because I was theorizing with my father's new Cadillac. I want to experiment early fuel system cleanings to avoid future direct injection related intake issues. And it sounds like you're at the forefront figuring that out. That's pretty cool.
I've had quite a few people come to me from other dealerships that they're lost. And it's just, if you know about the product, actually all you do is Google it. You'll see it all over the place.
So it sounds like if you want to be proactive in what you recommend to your customers, being a professional, recommend a 15,000 mile interval for an induction cleaning. And if they don't go for it, and you've written it down, of course, on the repair order, right, or on the invoice, and at 35 or 45,000 miles, they end up with codes and more serious issue, you can at least say to them, this was what I was trying to prevent with those cleanings that you didn't think you needed. You don't have to say it that way.
You can go back and look at,
they'll get the picture, and maybe from then on, after they've had to pay you the big bucks to do the cleaning 5 times, they'll go for it.
That's awesome. That's good to know.
I've done quite a few so far, sure.
And it's regular intake fogger you're using.
Regular intake fogger.
But the oil additive special though.
Oil additive.
That's different than MOA?
It is in oil.
Okay.
oil.
Okay.
And then I use.
Okay.
They reformulated MOA, right? So they changed the formula a year or so ago.
Yeah, it actually
Yeah.
cleans it slowly inside, so you don't actually, if you have an older motor, it doesn't, if you have sludge, any kind of sludge buildup like Volkswagen.
No, it's the
It doesn't
customer.
come off in icebergs.
The customer always assumes that you're upselling them just to make money, on a lot of this stuff because of what the quick loops are doing. But I mean, in the days of direct injection, because I mean, I was just theorizing this. I didn't have the car count that you have. You've been testing it for real.
I've been taking pictures.
You're verifying my
documenting.
suspicions.
Yeah.
Do you have? Well, would you be able to
I
make
have
an
pictures.
article from that or
Yes, I
something?
can.
Okay.
Cool. That's
So-
good.
So everybody out there, just be aware, direct injection intake valve deposits, you no longer have injectors squirting detergent fuel
To clean
onto
them
the
out.
onto the intake and onto the back of the valves.
Right.
And that's why this is all happening.
So
And the
thanks
engine is hot.
all these EPA regulations, they might make more work for us.
We can hope, right? So, any questions? No? No. Okay, Bear.
So my question was, with the heat wave we're having here in New York and all over the country, as what I understand from the little bit of the news that I watch, what's everyone doing to get through it, and what's anyone's experience been with the evaporative coolers? I've seen them, I've never been in a shop with one, I've heard a few pros and cons, but I'm asking the board and Webland what
Yeah. What are you doing to stay cool? And do you use evaporative coolers? Maybe called swamp coolers.
Yeah. Some shops that I've been to have used them. All right. Some of them are kind of bulky.
Yeah.
No, they're all big.
Yeah.
Some of them aren't, but it's
Right,
a
right.
comfort level you want to work in.
And does it make it that much more comfortable in the shop?
It somewhat. I said, but it certainly picks up the doggone humidity.
Yeah, that's the point.
That was my concern too.
Yeah, it does. It feels damp.
So just so you know, anybody on the web who doesn't know what we're talking about, they use this a lot in the Southwest, or they used to anyway. They're basically taking a radiator, a heat exchanger, putting a lot of water in it and blowing air over it, and the evaporation of the water, it's just like on your skin, it's wind chill.
Well, what else?
Cools it off.
Also, what they do is they spray.
Right.
They use a spray. They,
Right.
an atomized.
Yeah, they're making it so they can evaporate a lot of water.
Right.
at a
They
time.
atomize the water into a fan,
Right.
whether it be a squirrel cage type fan or a regular fan, and they blow it with the water with the air.
Right, now, my thought is that if you're in a dry environment, that's okay,
Right.
but New York is not a dry environment.
This area is not.
So, well, what's your experience? Was there a question?
Question from,
Is it relevant?
how many shop have AC in it?
How
Oh,
many shops have AC? Well,
Central
that's,
AC.
when I had my shop, which I've now closed like 4 years ago, I did put central air in it. The electric bill was impressive.
Not too many
but
shops.
those BMWs are diagnosed well now. What are
But
they?
I wasn't making stupid mistakes, and I wasn't working slower because I was cooking, brain fade. And let's face it, I like to be comfortable, and I was writing the check for the electric bill, so it was okay. But it was expensive. The other thing was, in New York, I really only needed it maybe 4 to 6 weeks out of the year. Really needed it. If you added it all up.
Yeah.
For me, that was worth it, but it was an investment. You're paying for all equipment. I was renting a building. I basically gave the AC system to the landlord, right?
You have one comfortable tenant.
And yes, and the new tenant uses it a lot. I know the guy.
I guess it's like anything, it's the, return on investment, no different than anything else.
And technically, I think it paid for itself in the enhanced productivity
Yes, I believe.
for me working efficiently. You know, that's if I'm just doing a bean counter exercise. But on the other hand, if it's not, it's personal. Who doesn't want to work comfortably? You know, and
I don't know. It seems like a lot of this business is inherently uncomfortable, and you have to expect it. You know, it's just how it is.
yes, that's true.
True.
You freeze in the winter. Now, of course, parts of the country don't have the kind of, well, we didn't have the kind of winter we have either this year, but we usually have a, you know, pretty good freezing winter with some time below zero and a lot of time below 30, you know, freezing.
Oh, yeah, well, sure.
Months.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I guess we all got used to it, right? And in the desert Southwest, you know, it may be dry heat, but it's still 115 out.
Yeah, dry fine, you know what?
That's hot, it's still
It's
hot.
still hot.
Yeah.
117 I heard inside the bay.
There you go. Right.
That said, if you have heat for the winter, you should have AC for the summer.
I kind
Then
of
wait.
Yeah,
He's my landlord. Why
It's fucking hot in that bay, G.
What the?
Oh.
You know what he used to do? He'd turn the ACs in the front offices on blast, he'd put big fans, and he'd blow it out. But I have a
There you
feeling
go.
I couldn't get away with that.
That's
So.
it.
Oh, that was the
Well,
old
the
days.
bottom
That's
line
the old
is,
days.
it is more comfortable. It does enhance productivity.
It's like any tool, whatever makes your life easier and more comfortable.
And if it's worth the
more
money.
money you're gonna make.
If the tool's worth the money.
Is the tool worth the money? Well, and you know, there's another part of it as an employer. If you have people working for you, you might be able to attract better people if you have a better work environment.
That said, you're right.
Don't even think about it, he said.
Jeez.
All right.
What else on the agenda there?
What else is on the agenda? Well, I had a couple of little, you know, I don't even work in a shop anymore, but I have, you know, my little projects. And I have this, this recurring nightmare car that I bought, you know, a bargain. My sister says bargains make you poor. Keep that in mind. So there's this car, I wrote some TST articles about various aspects of it, and everything was supposedly fixed. And I, you know, just to be a little paranoid and double check, I had 3 different problems on 3 different speeds on the auxiliary electric fan when I bought the car. It had no speeds, and you would normally say bad motor, right? It was, the motor was good. When I powered it up directly at the plug, the motor functioned on all 3 speeds. Oh no, it functioned on 2 speeds. The ballast resistor for low speed was done, like they often are. The relay for the medium speed was mounted upside down in an E-box full of water.
That happens.
And it looked like, you know, some part of the Titanic looks about now. And the other relay was, the relay was functional, but there was a connection on the AC compressor that was bad. And a compressor switch is what triggered that. I fixed all 3 of those items. The fan worked.
With the rheostat.
No, I fixed it correctly. A new relay for the relay, a new ballast resistor for the low speed, and all I had to do was clean the connection for the AC compressor. It was just full of crud. And the plastic clip was cracked on one side. It wasn't holding it in tight. Fixed all that, worked for, I don't know, a month or 2. I just noticed the other day, it's been making a funny noise when we start the AC. Craig heard that noise, I think. And it turns out that the auxiliary fan isn't coming on or not reliably. I went to test it again, and all 3 power sources are now good. It's got all 3 of them. So just because, you know, we like to hit things, I took a little screwdriver and a hammer at the front of the disc on the front of the motor and went tap, and it started running. It's a brush problem inside the motor.
Yeah. Had that happen?
So what, the commutator that was actually turned black?
I haven't taken it apart yet. That was just today I actually found that. So the bottom line is, when you get things like this, and we've said this many times, Rich runs into this on a daily basis. Check everything methodically, and if it's a case like this where you see a car back and the car's been nothing but irritation, check it again. Check your work. In this case, I know I have an issue with the motor, which unfortunately for me means I got to take the headlights out, the bumper off again. They got to take the whole nose off the stupid car to get this fan replaced.
Just bring a hammer with it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just bring a hammer, and every time I turn the AC on, run around in front of the car, open the hood, tap the motor.
You're good to go.
That'd be less work, you
Or
know?
do what your wife does, hit it.
Yeah, right. No, she's actually just doesn't want to drive the car. Okay, so Justin from Global Leak Detection Systems, I think we should start letting you in on the conversation. We were going to talk about evap problems.
We're leaving the best for last.
We're leaving the best for last, right?
You still
So
there?
Jason,
Yes, I'm here.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
Very
He fell-
good.
He fell asleep.
What can you tell us about leak detection and smoke machines?
Okay, well, I can't speak for all smoke machines, but I'm the smoke wizard. It's not just about looking for smoke with evap problems these days. It's really nice to be able to diagnose the system. The GOD40 specializes in that with the compound negative, positive pressure gauge as well as the flow meter. So there's some key features there that you can really use in diagnosing evap systems. The pressure gauge is really nice for confirming switches like NVLD, ESO, LDP, or fuel tank pressure sensors, confirming that they're reading accurately. One thing nice about the smoke wizard gauge is that it's recalibratable, so that you can adjust it prior to using it every time to make sure that you're getting a good, accurate reading. And again, the flow meter. The flow meter is a nice, I call it a high definition flow meter. It's a big flow meter, so that you can quantify the size of the leak. You can know how big your leak is. Again, you're not just going to go look for smoke. You're going to find out how big your leak is, and you can go from there.
So when you have a gauge that's out of calibration, how much does it have to be out to be a problem?
Well, like the leak detection pump, that switch changes state in 1 inch of water column, or NVLD.
1 inch of water, so that's really a small amount of pressure change.
That's not 1 inch of mercury.
By
Not-
just 1 inch of water column,
Right,
which is 28.5 inches of water column to PSI.
right.
So it doesn't take much for your gauge to be off enough to where the reading from that gauge to be worthless.
Yeah, it's gonna be either setting the light or not at that point.
So 1/28 of a pound.
Correct.
Very small.
Yes.
So
So,
it has to be accurate. Regardless of the smoke wizard or any other brand that you pick, it's important to have a recalibratable pressure gauge, because if you don't, there's really no sense in having a pressure gauge on your smoke machine. It's not really usable.
How fast is it to recalibrate?
You just got to pop the cover off and take a #1 screwdriver and adjust the screw according to.
Got it.
you take the cover off,
Yeah, I see a screw.
not being a klutz like I am,
Don't break it.
and
I need that.
and the screw is right there. It's a very fine adjustment.
Just zero, right?
Yeah,
Now,
it's a zero, yeah.
Just zero.
we just had an evap webcast sponsored by your company a few weeks ago, and we were really just talking about how to diagnose evap with a scan tool. I'd like to take the opportunity now how we could do the same using CO2 gas and emissions analyzer to diagnose some of those tough problems. Do you have any comments on that?
No, my area of expertise is in smoke machines and not too much with gas analyzers.
Well, what I found, like if you have a evap leak on top of a gas tank and they have 3/4 full of gas or it's 100% full, that you will not see any smoke leaving, and you'll see it on the gauge, but you won't be able to find anything. Now, the benefit of using an inert gas like carbon dioxide instead of nitrogen or something is that if you have an emissions analyzer in your shop, you'll actually be able to see elevated carbon dioxide levels where there's the evap leak. And if you're not using a smoke machine, you might be able to find elevated hydrocarbon levels where there's an evap leak. And I find that really useful. I use the same trick with a smoke machine and carbon dioxide to find really hard intake leaks like on Toyota Corollas, and also to find air suspension leaks like it helped me on an X5 BMW.
Those BMWs. Well, for those of you who don't use a smoke machine, or I'm sorry, an exhaust analyzer, and a lot of shops do not use an exhaust analyzer, they're nowadays pretty much all 5 gas, so O2, oxygen, CO2, CO, carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, and NOx, oxides of nitrogen. And so what Craig is saying is hydrocarbons, which is fuel, right, fuel vapor, and CO2, because you're going to put CO2 in a smoke machine. You're going to inject CO2 into the system. Your exhaust analyzer is now going to come up with elevated amounts of those gases when you get close to the source of the leak. And it's a very valuable tool when you're in a, like Craig said, a blind spot. You know, that gas tank's wedged between the bottom of that back seat and the, you know, the top of the tank. You've got an exhaust system underneath the tank which is saddled over it. You've got a whole boatload of stuff around, and you really can't reach most of it.
And sometimes these leaks will travel, the smoke will travel in all different directions you're chasing the ghost.
And the other thing is, you know, you're in a shop, you don't have air conditioning, or you have the windows or the doors and everything open. There's a breeze blowing through. It just moves the smoke around. But a concentration of those gases will come up. Now, you may have to...
I'd like to add something in here real quick.
Sure.
You know, and I hear what you're saying, and you know, you're saying sometimes the smoke's hard to find, and I get that, but that's why we've introduced the UV dye. And you know, opposed to sticking, you know, your $5,000 gas analyzer up underneath the dirty car between a fuel tank and the body, you know, smoke it. If you know you have a leak on your flow meter and you can see smoke coming around the gas tank, drop it down, look for UV dye.
Yeah, and actually that's true, but you still have to drop the tank. What we're saying is this is a time-saving device to actually know that you have a leak at the tank. And so you may not find the exact leak. That's a good point with the dye, by the way. You may not find the exact leak location on the tank with the exhaust analyzer. You may just say, aha, I have a leak above the tank and I now must pull the tank, and I'll see the dye.
You may have to make an adapter up for the back end of your hose so that you can get up there and on top, and so you don't have to see up there.
Yeah, that's correct. But as long as you know it's in that no man's land up above the tank or any other location in the car, at least that steers you towards what has to be disassembled or looked out with a bore scope with a black light, you know, with a UV light, so that you can try to find out the source of that leak without.
Once you drop in that tank, you're selling a fuel pump. So you better be sure.
You gotta have a labor authorization to pull that tank down, and in some cars that's a real tough job, you know. And you know, in the Northeast we have rusty hardware and all that. Yeah.
I have a coworker with me, Charles Johnson. Could he answer or address this question?
Yes, absolutely.
Now here's Charles. Hi, I'm Charles. I want to answer that question about the $5,000 gas analyzer. You're going to stuff up in that dirty section of that car and suck in dirt.
Yeah.
Before you do that, one thing that I might suggest, one thing that GE came up with and invented, so he's basically behind the invention of it, and that is UV dye. If we have a flow meter on the machine, if you learn how to accurately use the flow meter instead of sucking that dirt all around the car, spinning all day long with that gas analyzer, is it over here? Is it over there? It might be up here, it could be over there. No, why don't you just take the flow meter, see if there's a leak, pitch the gas tank line off. If the flow goes away, you know the leak was in the tank.
Yeah,
now go take the dye, see the leak, end of story, make money, done day.
Okay, that was simple.
Thank you.
What, can you translate that, Eric? What he said?
Just separate
slow it down.
Slow it down.
Just isolate the system. It's either in the front or back.
Yeah, he's basically saying only put smoke into the back, into the tank area, so you know if there is a leak, that's where it is.
Why in the world would you take a $5,000 piece of machinery and jeopardize it when you, within less amount of time, you can actually pinpoint the leak with a flow meter?
It's just another technique we've learned.
I'm not following this one.
Yeah. It's just a technique that's been out
Because
there.
I'm young and lazy.
Yeah, well, also sometimes the
If you're young and
plastic,
lazy, then that way you want to do it the quick way, then wouldn't you?
sometimes the plastic lines get in the way too. You gotta be concerned about breaking stuff.
Right?
There's a question here.
Yeah, I didn't pay for any of it.
Guys, what?
All right.
Excuse me, what'd you say? Hello?
Okay, I think we got
He
it.
said if you have an extra 30 minutes, he would like to stop by and show you.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's the smoke was staying where the lean is. Use the black light.
Yeah,
So, yes,
smoke will
the
stay
comment
where-
is, if the smoke is staying where the leak is, then we use the black light because you'll have a stain, obviously.
Right, absolutely.
It's always going to leave a stain where the leak was. It doesn't. We said this in our the webcast a couple of weeks ago. The smoke itself does not show up in a black light. It leaves a stain that shows you where the leak was, where it was coming out and hitting the air.
Another quick question, Pierre, in that regard. How, much smoke do you got to pump through to leave a stain that you should see?
I don't think it takes a very long
I mean,
time.
I don't know.
These guys know that. How much?
Rule of thumb, Charles? A little bit, a lot of it?
Rule of thumb, how much smoke do you have to put through this leak to show a stain?
To leave enough dye.
The quick and easy way of doing it is, first of all, once you've accomplished the fact that the leak is above the tank, whether you can see the smoke or not by fixing the light off and see the flow meter change, once you've established that, now you know the leak is there. So the smart thing would be to do is the machine's on a 5-minute timer. Shut it off, turn it on. Walk over to your toolbox while that 5-minute timer's running. You know what tools you're going to need to drop that tank. Grab your tools, get it over there. By the time you got your tools out,
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Back underneath the thing.
5 minutes,
Hey,
not 2 seconds
done.
worth of smoke.
So 5 minutes.
Rule.
So that's the answer, 5 minutes. So you let it run through the 5-minute cycle, and wherever that leak is, there'll be a stain.
The point is, you're dropping a
You gotta
tank.
make sure that not all black lights are the same. I don't care if it's for air conditioning, antifreeze, or anything else. All UV lights work underneath a nanometer scale. Nanometer scale means the frequency at which the light actually reflects the best at. 405 nanometers is what our reflection is. Now you can have AC dye that can, from some companies that buy it, that sell it, that's like 380 nanometers. That light won't work. And this is a trick you can use not only in our smoke machines, but in fact in any shop that uses any kind of UV dye, whether it's transmission-wise, engine-wise, exhaust-wise, whatever the case may be. What you want to do is take some of the dye and make a little dot on a clean surface. And have your Snap-on, Macro Cornwell, Napa CarQuest, whoever's selling you your parts, have them bring all their UV lights in and have them show them. That way you'll actually know which lights work for which area.
That's a
We
great
don't want
idea.
to have a light that doesn't work for the area that we have. That's why we
That's
actually
not
put
loud
one
enough
into
to
the
pick up
machine
on
with it. Not all UV lights are the same. Not saying one's better or one's worse. I'm just saying there's different reflective
Yeah,
levels.
you gotta know,
Nanometers.
You got to know what the frequency is, basically.
Yes.
you gotta know what it looks like under that light, period.
Yeah, it's got to reflect, otherwise you won't see it. Well, very good. Good point.
Yeah.
Why do we have to use CO2 gas? I mean, I didn't hear about that many guys blowing themselves up with shop air. I know there's some other smoke machines out there that use shop air. I'm sorry?
Let's get something straight right now. We don't have to use it. It's not our request. It's the manufacturer's request. If you want to follow the manufacturer's procedures, our machines are built to do so. Hey, if you want to get underneath the car without jack stands, that's your prerogative. You want to that's fine. I don't care. In fact, I'll pay tickets to watch. But the fact of the matter is, we don't need to use nitrogen, use CO2, or anything else. It's an albatross to us. The only thing we've done is we've followed whatever is needed for the manufacturers to be able to follow the procedures that they request to be used. Now, if you have a problem with using CO2, I suggest you get a hold of General Motors and have them change their ways.
No, I think it's a good idea. Basically,
You know what? So is putting stands underneath the car.
Yeah.
So is it using protective eyeglasses, and so is using gloves. But that doesn't mean you have to use them.
so for those of you on the webcast, what Charles is basically saying is
You have the right to be stupid, but he doesn't recommend it.
right, and if you do,
Right.
he might buy tickets.
People do.
Yeah, people do it all the time.
Yeah, the bottom line is the inert gas is there to protect you from blowing yourself and your neighbors up.
It has nothing to do with our smoke machine. It has nothing to do with it. I'm tired of hearing this.
Right, right.
This is a manufacturer's procedure, not a smoke
So
procedure.
the auto manufacturers are specifying
You have a problem with it, call the manufacturer like General Motors and all the rest of them and tell them you have a problem with it.
Yeah, we got the point, we understand.
That's good.
Good, okay.
All right. Anybody else have any other pet peeves about or special procedures about using a smoke machine and finding evap leaks?
All I can say is I really like that yellow one right there.
That's why it's on camera here, by the way. This is Craig's, the one that gets used in the shop every day.
There you go.
And he loves it.
And it's been through hell, And it's doing pretty good for something that's been through hell, you know, it's taking a beating.
Especially when it's used for those Evap classes.
Yeah.
Forget about
It's
it.
got a beautifully TIG welded handle on it.
Yeah, you got that.
I like that.
So,
Very good
So
for
that's the old model machine. The new machine has a different handle on it. It's a really nice design.
As nice as this one?
yeah.
Yeah, that machine's probably, I don't know, 3-4 years old.
So,
Craig said he'll take a new one.
I didn't say.
I think he has a new one.
It's in the vault.
I don't
Nobody
know.
in the vault.
I think
they
it's out
already
in the
gave
box.
you a new one?
I don't,
Yeah,
my
they
father
got-
locks away tools I don't even know
It's
about.
out in the storage container.
It's in the vault.
You used that one so much, we got tired of you guys fighting over it, so we gave you another one.
All right.
Perfect.
Great.
Can I have one too?
No.
Hey,
You can have it.
I'm kidding.
Now, anybody on the webcast, do you have any other subjects, pet peeves, tools, whatever, anything you want to discuss?
That speak about NVLD.
NVLD.
Natural
Yeah,
vacuum.
yeah. Maybe Charles or Judson, you can fill us in on NVLD testing. And while he's getting to the microphone there, basically they're using vacuums.
Yeah. NVLD is a system that was actually put in place for systems after the LDP. The NVLD actually works off the natural state of the gas, whether it expands or contracts. When it expands, it's allowed to escape the system at a very low pressure, even at less than 0.5 inch of a water column. And once the pressure escapes, the old saying goes, what goes up must come down. And what ends up happening is what expands is now contracting because it's cooling off. When it cools off, it starts to create a vacuum. If it's not able to create a vacuum, then it says to the system, hey, there must be a leak. The problem with this is the way that we go to test it is different than any other type of system. Why? It's because it doesn't have the typical type of vent solenoid you would normally shut. In fact, this vent solenoid works the opposite of all the rest. When it actually opens up for purging and stays closed the rest of the time. Now, one of the things when the smoke wizard was invented, and the reason why we talked earlier about the accuracy of the gauge, is because of the minute amount of vacuum that actually occurs when the system is in self-test, which could be hours after the vehicle shut off. Now, 1 inch of water column is about the same amount of vacuum that your eyelid would take when you blink your eye. It's minute. If you don't have a gauge that you can adjust to make this zero, as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't even test the system with it. I wouldn't allow it to be used. Now that you have one that you can actually test, I would take your scan tool, hook it up to the vehicle, make sure you can look at that NVLD switch, called SW, and then when you apply vacuum with a hand vacuum pump with a very small amount of vacuum, in fact, we make a thing called a pop-it. You can stick over the gas cap, you can pop it right on there. You can take a hand vacuum pump and slowly and minutely take and apply vacuum to the system and slowly see that pressure gauge go up. And when it hits the 1 inch of water column, does the switch actually change in the scan tool? This is when you combine the scan tool and the smoke machine together, how powerful it can actually be. So now that we know that the switch actually activates, because you can start the car up and nail the purge valve to 100% duty cycle, you're creating so much vacuum, you could have a hole in that NVLD diaphragm the size of a penny, and that sucker will still close the switch. So that isn't going to do it for you. You have to do it accurately. Apply vacuum very slowly. Make sure the vacuum switch closes to change the state at 1 inch of water column. If you make it all the way up to 3 inches of water column and that switch has not changed, that switch is bad, and it could actually give you a false code that it's actually a leak. And indeed, it's not a leak, but it is. It's actually a switch.
So the computer strategy is seeing the switch inactivity as a leak.
Correct.
Right.
Well, for a second, what goes up must come down. Let's take that thought. Let's run with it a little bit. We take that thought, what goes up must come down, what expands must contract, and if it never contracts, it never sees it contracting, if you took the gas cap off that, it'd never see vacuum, would it?
That's correct.
So how would it know there's no eyeballs in that computer? How the heck would it ever know whether you have the gas cap off or the switch is bad?
Yes, right. Do you have procedures online? Simple
What's that?
procedures. Do you have simple procedures online? Your website? Via your website?
No, but you know what? Look forward to the future of QR codes.
QR codes.
We're going to be QR on it very soon.
Want to elaborate on that?
Yeah.
You know the little QR squares?
No?
Yes, I do, yes.
Yeah,
In a magazine, you put your phone up to it.
Before this calendar year comes to an end.
So you're gonna have like little skits of how to test the system.
Every single thing you can do with the Smoke Wizard will be there.
All right, so on the web, you've heard it here. Basically, if you have a smartphone and you click on that little, whatever you want to call that pattern, on an
QR codes.
QR codes on a magazine, you'll be able to link to procedures like that.
Just type in,
Not only does God love the stupid people, but he also loves the smart people too.
There you go. It's equal.
but you also have it on your website?
Not yet.
Okay.
All right.
Can I ask one question? I don't have the answer. Ask him to, how can we
But
use
you
the
can always
Smoke
call
Wizard
the tech
machine on
line
the
that's
NVLD?
actually on that machine, and you'll get a verbal question answered.
Okay.
The number is 866-670-7734, and just ask for Justin.
Okay.
Now we have.
I'm always in the back room.
I
I'm always
see.
buried in all kinds of stuff you
I-
can imagine.
Right now, we have a question that came on the from the web. What is the exact procedure for testing a NVLD with the smoke machine?
All right, I'll go through step by step if he's listening.
Yep.
Step number 1, pull your code. Step number 2, keep your scan tool connected. If it is a leak code, step number 3, we're going to take and want to quantify whether or not that NVLD switch is good or not prior to the time to go look for leak. Because if there's no leak, why would we go look for smoke? Or why would we put that $5,000 gas analyzer underneath there? Not a good idea. So let's go to the next step. The next step would be this. Now that we have the scan tool hooked, we know that it's a leak code, we're going to take and reconfigure so we see the pin for the NVLD switch. We're going to go to our little box of goodies, and we're going to take and bring one of the adapters we have called a poppet. We're going to take that poppet, we're going to go over to the car, we're going to take that gas cap off, we're going to stick that poppet on there, we're going to get a hand vacuum pump, which every shop in the world has. We're going to apply that vacuum pump into that poppet, and we're going to walk our Smoke Wizard. What we're going to walk on our Smoke Wizard, make sure it's calibrated to 0 to start with, because remember, trash in is trash out. Get it 0. Make sure that we're talking about 1 inch of water column.
1 inch.
Once we have that thing at
One little
0,
mark.
and once we have that thing to the point to where we are hooked up to the system, we start applying vacuum. Pump, pump, pump. We watch the meter. Once it reaches at 1 inch of water column, look at your scan tool. What happens to the state of the NVLD switch? If it changed, then we know at that time that switch is working. So we can legitimately say at this point, let's go test to make sure where we have a leak. But if it doesn't change, continue to apply vacuum. If you make it 2 inches of water column, and that switch hasn't changed status, we know now for a fact that switch is bad.
Or if you
What you do, I don't care how you test, at this point, you're going to have to change that switch before you go further. Not saying that there's not a leak in the system. I'm just saying you have to do that first. Let's say that was bad, and let's say we did change it, and now we test it, and lo and behold, we can actually get to 1 inch and I see the switch change. Could there be another problem? Absolutely. Multiple problems are common. So the next thing we want to do is we want to take our smoke machine, and on the front of it, on the basement, there's a 10,000s, 20,000s, and 40,000s on the flow meter. We'd apply it into the system. We'd block the system off by blocking it. By the tail end of it, where the smoke would actually come out. If you don't know where to block it, turn the smoke machine on, where the smoke's coming out of that big hose, pinch it off. Now that we have that, before we go looking for a leak, because this is a common problem with people, especially, looking around, they have a leak, so they want to go looking for it. And this is, again, with a gas analyzer. I've heard this all the time. I have that gas analyzer up on top of the tank, down around the back, around the bottom. I can't find that leak. Well, how do you know there's a leak there? Quantify the leak first. Prove to yourself the leak exists before you go looking for it.
So therefore, you watch the flow meter. If that ball stays above the 20,000, yes, there's a leak. Go find the smoke. Wait, it's on top of the tank. I can't see it. Fine. Take and shut the machine off. It's on a 5-minute timer. Turn it back on. Go get your tools. You know you have to pull the tank. Get the jacket you need. Stick it underneath the tank. Get it jacked up there. Get the straps taken off. By that time, the smoke machine's shut off. You're doing something else. Pull the thing down. Use the proper UV light and see the exact fingerprint location of the exact leak. Not something you're guessing at by poking a pipe up there trying to do a little sniffing.
Okay, so hopefully, did that, tell us if that answered your question on the web.
We can get more thorough if we need.
But I thought that was very good.
Very good, yeah.
The bottom line is, you know, you have a procedure. That was very detailed. That's good. The key to it is an accurate gauge. There's very low numbers in pressure here. We're talking about a 1/28 of a pound of pressure. Or vacuum, you know, a pressure change, basically. A very small amount.
Look at the flow meter, see how big that flow meter is. It's just like a lab scope. If you have a lab scope with a 2-inch screen, is it as visible as a 8-inch screen? No. That's why you've got to have a large flow meter to be able to really get down and see detailed information.
Let me just say something here because I'm on the camera. So just for you people seeing it on the camera here, where my finger is now is 10 thousandths. Where it is now is 20 thousandths leak. It's a hole that size around. And where it is now is a 40 thousandths leak. So that's a big space to have those differences in flow so you can really see small changes very accurately. Okay, sorry about that. That's just wanted to show them.
You're right, and to understand the correlation there, a 10,000th leak is actually, circumference-wise or surface-wise, it's only 1/4 of the size of the leak of a 10,000th. Everybody thinks 10,000th is half the size of 20. And that's not true. Not the total surface size.
Old geometry equations come into.
Did you have a question on the phone number, Eric?
Yeah, on the back of your this machine here, the tech support number is 1-877-669-2841.
Is that correct to get to you, Jessen?
Yes, that's direct to me.
Okay.
That
Okay.
number will work as well as the tech support number.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll make sure.
Very good. Anybody else have any, well, are we done with Evap stuff, first of all? Is there any other questions or
I just want to
comments?
say one thing. I always break the system in half, front to rear. Is that pliable? Is that easier way to
So
find?
what do you mean by that? You take a hose off right
pinch it
somewhere
right in
by
the
a
middle.
tank, or so you can test forward and test back?
It's either purge, you know, from the middle of the car to purge or backward. So if your flow gauge goes down, you pinch it off in the middle, you know what direction to go.
It's viable. Now here's the question I have for you. What if all the lines are hard plastic and you can't really do that?
You take it apart and cap it.
Okay. You have to make
Yeah,
sure
you
you're
break
covered.
it.
Right. Okay.
In fact, a company like Toyota, which is one of the largest companies in the world, that's exactly how their procedures are. They divide, conquer, just like every technician in the world. I don't care who's at that table or who's listening on this phone right now. Every technician on this planet divides and conquers. We may do it differently. Some people may go straight through a scan tool. Some people may go straight to replacement parts.
Yep.
But if we all do exactly what was wrong with it, none of us would need diagnostic tools.
You get
All
that
we
right.
do is just go fix the one part. So all of us, one way or another, does the exact same thing. We divide and we conquer. In this case, Toyota also does the same thing. We'll divide the system and we'll conquer it. Honda does the same thing. We'll divide the system and conquer it. So this is nothing new. This is nothing we brought up. This is just a fact of the way the systems work.
Yeah.
Logical way to do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And gee, I have to say, the invention that you have on the die, wow.
There you go.
What if I told you his son gave him that idea?
I mean, he means the other son, of course. All right. Anybody else have any other pet peeves, procedures, or whatever?
Charles.
Charles.
I have one other thing you can actually do, as long as we're talking about Evap, and that is, somebody said something about checking a purge valve. Well, you know, that's, again, another reason why it's really nice to have a very accurate pressure gauge.
Yeah.
Is because we have the ability with bidirectional control to be able to control the duty cycle of the purge valve, or what I call it, the front door. If we actually are capable of controlling it, we have the ability to be able to perform a test, and I like to call it action-reaction.
Yeah.
Why? It's because if I open the front door, the purge valve, and I have a system that has a fuel tank pressure sensor, and I'm testing it there, what should I see? I should see a change.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, is it accurate? I don't know. What I'd like to do is open up that purge valve, 10%, 20%, whatever duty cycle you like, small amount. If you don't hear the instant adjust, it doesn't prove that the valve actually opened. But one thing you can do is actually look at your fuel tank pressure sensor and see if it correlates with our pressure sensor. What if that isn't actually getting the vacuum to the tank? Now the question is going to be asked, well wait, the back door is open, or the vent valve is open. Well, if I open up the front door, the purge valve, am I going to see fuel tank pressure sensor change? The answer is absolutely yes. And here's the reason why. Because when you create vacuum from the engine to the Evap system, even though it's going all the way through right out the vent valve, the charcoal canister itself, with the filters it has and the charcoal it has in it, is going to create some form of resistance. And we know what resistance does. It creates a backwards of volume, of vacuum. That vacuum will be backed up in the tank, so you will see a minute change. My question is that minute change able to be seen both by the fuel tank pressure sensor and the meter that's on the front of that machine? So many people buy these machines and never really use the real use of them. Oh, it has a pressure gauge, so what? It has a vacuum gauge, so what? Well, use it.
Well,
We put it on there because we just want to charge more for it. We put it on there so we can fix cars. So with that said, we are able to measure 1 inch, 2 inches of vacuum, if we adjust the gauge, that is. And then the second thing we're capable of doing is putting the PID up on our scan tool to be able to coincide the reading on our smoke wizard and the reading that's actually on the scan tool. What's important about this? If they're the same, nobody's lying. If one of them's wrong, somebody's lying, and we need to figure out what it is. And yes, these type of things can cause false codes. So in the meantime, we can do what? We can check to prove that the purge valve open. And if we actually went through the trouble of actually closing the back door, or the vent valve, we can see the accuracy of how quick it actually changed afterwards to the fuel tank pressure sensor. And then we can also see something else that would be very, very beneficial to us. And that is the accuracy of the fuel tank pressure sensor from what the scan tool is reading and what we're reading. Because the scan tool gets crap information in, it's going to be bad out. So therefore, we need to have some way of doing a checks and balances, especially on an action-reaction basis. But now we've proved that the front door is able to open. Are we able to prove that it closed? Let's close it. The back door is closed. We proved it closed. Let's close the front door. Now that we close the front door, does the pressure or vacuum change? If it continues, listen to this, if it continues to increase vacuum, what could be wrong?
Purge valve.
The purge valve.
Yeah,
Why?
it's leaking, it's not
Very
closing.
common reason. A lot of times it's charcoal or contamination within the system. Okay?
Yeah.
So with that said, let's say it didn't change. Now we know the front door opened, we know the front door closed, we know the back door actually closed, because we actually seen the change when we closed the back door of the fuel tank pressure sensor. We know the fuel tank pressure sensor actually coincides with our machine, so we know it's right. The only thing we really have, two things we have left to do, is to check to see if there's a leak, and or see if the back door opens. Again, you can see if there's a leak by using the flow meters on it. And two, if you want to check the back door, if you open it up, what will happen to the pressure gauge? Boom, it'll drop. So we can literally test every component in that system without getting our butt off the driver's seat. We don't have to drag out a $5,000 gas analyzer and stuff it up underneath the tank and get dirt all down it, so we have to take and change the filters that are very expensive. I just as soon sit on my butt and figure the problem out.
All right, very good. Well, thank you. We're about out of time. So again, thank you, Charles and Judson.
Charles, that was an excellent job, by the way.
Yeah, and thank you to the board here for coming out tonight. And I guess I'll ask one more time, are there any other questions or comments off the web?
No, we're good.
That's it, we're good. So, again, thank you for another great webcast on TST's behalf. We will, by the way, go to tstseminars.org for updated information on any other webcasts we have coming. We don't have our regular seminars till September now. We're off for the summer, but we do have other stuff, and Craig's bringing over a DVD here he's going to plug.
Yes, I'm breaking out the DVDs. TST's moved over to doing our new classes ever since the big event in March on professionally produced DVDs. Nice, glossy, hard copy, quality product that other guys are around 150 bucks each, 40 bucks for TST members. I mean, you can't beat that. At least I think you can anyway.
No, I don't think you
know
can.
enough
No.
about this business.
Right.
But so check out the website, tstseminars.org. On the right, you'll see seminars on DVD. Every class we do that costs money, you know, all our live seminars are on DVD. You're not going to buy DVDs of the free stuff on YouTube because it's free. So everything else is on DVD. Take advantage of the opportunity. They're quite nice. What do you guys think?
I think they're excellent.
Very
Much
good.
nicer.
Absolutely.
So with that said, and by the way, that's only one of the benefits of being a TST member. You pay for membership once a year, and then you can get discounts on tools, DVDs, seminars. If you come live to seminars, you also get to network with other techs. A lot of people call me up and bend my ear with this, different things over the course of every month. It's a benefit to all of us to network. It makes us more professional. It helps us do our jobs.
And look, even what smokers is on the front cover.
There you go.
Look at that, just subtly
On the
there.
front cover, so.
Plus, if you're in the California area, or more specifically in the Ontario, California area, TST is having a big event there on September 28th. We'll be covering network diagnostics and P0420s. So for guys that weren't in the New England area for our Northeast big event, we'll be coming to you. So if you are interested, go to tstseminars.org/big-event.html, or just go to the website and search for it, or give us a phone call.
Click on the links.
Click on the links.
That's it.
Look for the flyers in Motor Rage. Look for our column in Motor Rage. We have a trainer column every month with tips and tricks to help you diagnose cars in the real world. And you guys, please send them in because I'm tired of writing them. So, you know, that includes you, Eric, with your carbon buildup in the
I got a
intake.
lot of different ones that haven't done that.
So, alrighty, and with that, I'm going to say we're done.
We're done.
So good night, and have a great summer.